Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Celebrate Columbus Show. My name is Brent Devers and I'm going to be your host for this episode. I am sitting next to Megan Bozell, friend of mine, and just for them I'm going to explain how we know each other. I came to Columbus and one of the first people that I met was her husband Kevin. Not husband then because it was in elementary school, but we went to different elementary schools and we played AAU basketball together. It's where I met the infamous Kevin, hilarious. And then we went to Central Middle School where we played basketball there and became very good friends. We did go to different high schools, but we remained friends throughout. And then he married you. I also know your brother Derek, and spent many occasions hanging out and playing basketball with him too. Today we are going to talk about Megan's journey and her family's journey through miscarriage, infant loss, and how they chose to not be defeated by it and instead choose hope and carry on through it. And now they have a fundraiser called Reids Race where they raise funds for research and awareness. So Megan, can you tell us more about your story and Reids Race and how this all came to be?
Sure. I'm Megan Bozell and I married Kevin in 2008. We started trying for a family in 2010. In 2010, we were excited. We were pregnant with our first in the spring. And in April of that year, I miscarried. And the grief was really hard. I think now reflecting back on it and talking with my husband more, it really shook him. And I knew that we had a significant loss. We had just gone to a wedding that weekend and of course shown off all the baby sonogram pictures, and I still, wanted a baby. So while we grieved and we struggled, we wanted to try again. And so, in what felt like years, but in reality was really just months, we found out in late July of that year that we were expecting again. So needless to say, that was a scary pregnancy. Once you have gone through losing a pregnancy and a baby, it just makes things a lot harder to enjoy. However, we had a pretty easy pregnancy with Reid. So he was born April 12th, 2011. Perfect little nugget.
You have a picture
I do,
well,
yeah.
Right? Let's see.
You'll love his dimples in this one. 8 pounds, 2 ounces, 21 inches, and he was a chunky little thing. So we were very blessed and excited to be parents. We did everything by the book, that we thought we were doing everything right. And on September 19th, Reid was 5 months and 1 week exactly. We had been at church that day and had a fun raising event for our church, and when we got home, I gave him his bath and everything and put him to bed just like normal. And I woke up the next morning and I hadn't heard him, and I kind of was like, square one. He slept great and started to get ready for work. And he wasn't a light sleeper, but normally me running a blow dryer or something would wake him up. And so when I still didn't hear from him, I went into his room and immediately just knew something was not right. I went over to his crib and felt him, and he was cold. So took him out of the crib, called 911, and tried to resuscitate him. He was taken to the hospital and was pronounced dead after they also attempted to resuscitate him. So family and friends came, and we were very blessed because we were able to actually hold him, and everyone in our family and friends were able to be with him that morning at the hospital. And I just remember sitting there in a chair and I was crying, and my brother was behind me, and I was holding him, and I just remember thinking, this is my life. this is real. This has happened. You don't think this will ever happen to you, and it just doesn't touch people. It's like you read about it and you read how to prevent it, but in your brain it can never happen to you. So through the next few days, obviously our life was turned upside down.
So dealing with something like this, infant loss, stillborn, I mean, that could make people just want to quit on everything and just say, I forget it, throw their hands up, turn their back to it and walk away. What was it that drove you to not look that way, to not be that, to choose hope instead and move forward and now be who you are today?
Well, it was a hard decision. It was not easy. My husband and I, we knew that we wanted a family. Losing Reid, though, we both went down a very dark path. It was not a light bulb moment, where we woke up and we were like, hey, we can do this. We both struggled. We were very blessed by our family and friends and our support and community that has been around us and lifted us up. However, I'm not going to sit here and say there weren't times that I didn't know if I could go on. I miss my son every day. I have two very good friends with kids his exact age, and watching them, it gives me a way to see Reid, but it also makes me just wish he was there with them. Kevin and I, honestly, God planned Trent, not us. So we found out in late December of 2011 that we were expecting again, and we were like, wow, okay. So it kind of helped band us together and decide, we can either fall apart or we can do this. And luckily our families were behind us and our friends, and we chose to go forward. We decided that we could no longer stay in the home that we had Reid in and that he had passed in, and so we decided to build a house, and we moved in 5 days before Trent was born. Not something I would recommend. We had Trent in 2012, and he was our rainbow baby. And if you don't know what a rainbow baby is, that's a baby that you have after a loss. So Reid was our first rainbow baby, and Trent was our second. He was a great baby. We were still very much in our depths of grief. After Trent was born, my husband came back. He had been in a really hard place, and throughout my pregnancy was very hard on him. And that baby came out and he was just ecstatic. He's an amazing dad. And so I was very blessed by that, because I did not really grieve as I should have until Trent was born. So I went down my path and journey that will never end. It just changes shape of grief at that point. And then in 2015, Hudson was born. He's our little firecracker. And he gave us another fright and decided to spend a couple weeks at Riley. And I remember my husband looking at me and saying, we can't ever do this again. Like, we've gone through too much. This is crazy. But he's alive and well and healthy, and challenges us every day. So we're very blessed to have our two sons that we have, and they help us in our grief. Like I said, we celebrate his birthday in April every year. Our family and friends come over and we sing happy birthday to him, and we let off balloons and send them to heaven, and everybody writes messages on them. And then in September, on September 19th, that's the date that he has his heavenly birthday. And so we also celebrate his heavenly birthday with our family and friends, and we release Chinese lanterns. And you know, that just is really empowering for my kids. And for myself and Kevin as well. Our family comes together and helps us share those things and send our messages up, but also it lets us share our message. You know, we think about who finds those. When we have those messages written on them, can we change them in some way? So it gives us a way to platform Reid's story a little bit more. I was very blessed to have a good friend who, throughout my pregnancy with Reid, I was actually her daughter's preschool teacher, and she also had experienced a loss, and together we came together and started a support group for Columbus called Angels of Hope. Angels of Hope is a support group for miscarriage, stillbirth, and infant loss. And after she had gone through her grief and I had gone through mine, she had actually traveled to Indianapolis to find a group of people who could understand her grief and her depth of loss, because it's a grief like none other. We missed out on all those firsts. We missed out on knowing what he would be and who he would be. So we came together and worked with St. Peter's here in Columbus to start Angels of Hope. And that's kind of how my journey started on learning more about these types of losses and ways to support others.
There's really not a lot of knowledge, really, when you think about the research and capabilities of doctors and everything. There's still a lot of unknowns around infant loss, miscarriage, and SIDS. You're doing a lot to bring awareness and raise money to help support any effort that you can, and Reids Race is one of those ways that you're doing that. Mm-hmm. And this is the 6th year, mm-hmm. which is amazing. So you've raised a lot of money and been able to help in every way that you can bring awareness towards this. And you've been a resource to others, just as you had a resource to help you grieve through yours. Is that kind of part of that helps drive you, not just raising the awareness towards that, but also being a resource for other people where you didn't know where to go? You want to know that there's a place where they can come and be welcome, right?
Yeah. You know, you think about your boys, right? How many times a day do you hear their names?
Can't even count.
Yeah, exactly, which is wonderful. But those of us who have gone through this loss, we might go years without anybody saying our child's name. And so I want to change that. You know, one of the best parts about the race is something new we added last year. If you want your child's picture and name up, you can purchase a sign, and as the runners are going through, they see your child's face and they see your child's name. And that has been so empowering to so many families, because you don't get that opportunity very often. The research piece is huge. Like you said, there's just so much unknown. Why does this happen? We have something that's affecting people all the time, and we're unable to figure it out. Unfortunately, Bartholomew County is the 2nd highest county in Indiana for infant mortality. That's Indiana alone is the 8th highest state in the United States.
Oh my.
We're the only state up north Midwest area. So we here in our own state, in our own county, we have a job to do. We've got to get this awareness and this piece of how we can change that number. Yeah.
And you have seen increased numbers every year for the race. Mm-hmm. You have some additional things this year that you haven't had in the past. You want to talk about those a little bit?
Yeah. So we'll still have the 5K walk run. That will start at 3 o'clock. You can pre-register at signmeup.com, searching Reids Race, or you can register the day of starting at 2. And following the 5K, we'll have a kids run, which is always my favorite part. We have some of the younger ones, and then the bigger ones do a separate run. And this is my kids' favorite part. my son is 6 and he has totally embraced what it is to love someone he has never met. He talks about Bubby Reid and he knows when we're going to visit him, and he has just really taught me a lot about what it's like to grieve someone you don't know, and also what it's like to be proud of them still. So he loves to say, I'm running for Bubby Reid. So after that, starting at 5 o'clock, we will have food trucks and beverages available, as well as live music. So this is the first year for that. I've heard countless times, Megan, you know I don't run, or I don't want to walk 5K. And so I was looking at some different avenues of, you know, I know there are people out there who want to support this cause, but they don't want to do it in the 5K aspect. So I wanted to find a way that we could incorporate some other people and some other interests. So that's why this year's called Rock Out at Reids Race. At 5 o'clock, Mike Wilson's band, Ferguson Road, will be playing. And my husband's a firefighter and Mike is one of his fire brothers. So it's been really neat to have that connection. And then starting at 6:30, Legacy, the Cox family Roberts band, is going to be playing. And again, we have so many connections to them as well. My husband grew up with them, and then I'm very fortunate to work with several of them at Clifty Creek. So being able to have 2 bands come that we have that special connection with really means a lot to us. I'm just excited for the cause and to bring people together to raise funds for this.
Yeah. So Megan, tell us how we as a community can support your family and Reids Race.
So obviously coming to the event would be the first way. The event's Saturday, April 13th, and the 5K portion starts at 3 o'clock, and the music and food trucks start at 5 o'clock. If you're interested in signing up for the 5K before the event, you can go to signmeup.com and search for Reids Race. There's also a link on the Facebook page, Reids Race, or Indiana Timings Facebook page. We also have an online store this year that's a new component that's on the Facebook page as well, and you can purchase Reids Race merchandise. So if you're unable to be at the event but still want to be able to give back to the cause, there are shirts, there are some bags, there are the yard signs that you can have personalized. And the yard signs don't have to be just for an infant or a child. Anybody that you want to have a sign made in memory of. We would love to be able to do as much of the track as possible with those signs. But that's another way you can give back, and all money raised goes directly to the First Candle Foundation, and they use that money then to provide research for miscarriage, stillbirth, and infant loss. They also use that money to provide resources for support groups similar to Angels of Hope that I mentioned, to help provide support to those groups as well. So this is the 6th year that we've been with them, and I feel really confident that they use the money in the correct way and that they're working actively to find an end to SIDS. If you're interested in making a donation and are unable to come to the event or don't want to participate in any way, donations will be accepted the day of. All checks made out to First Candle, or you can go online to that Sign Me Up link that's on our Facebook page, and you can make a donation there where you sign up for the race, there's a donation only link.
Wow, so that's a lot of ways that we can get involved in Reids Race. Be sure to check out the Facebook page, and we're also going to post a lot of those ways that you can get involved. And Megan, thank you for coming and sharing your story and telling us more about Reids Race. And Columbus, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you out there at Reids Race.